So
All right, everyone. So we have a special guest here, Warren. And Warren, unlike some of the other interviews, is a real estate investor himself. So we're going to ask him, or I'm going to ask him a couple of questions, and we'll get right into it. So, Warren, tell me about yourself and what you do.
uh, well, I'm not as big time investor as you, but I do this part time. Uh, so I work for MUFG Bank. It's an international bank in New York City. So I had the opportunity to work remotely and moved in the Philadelphia area where my wife is from. Um, so as right now, we are currently remote, in a hybrid model, working 1 day a week, and soon to be 2 days a week. So I'll be commuting to New York very often. Um, yeah, so that's what I do. I'm a part-time investor, not 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 too much, just here and there.
I think you're being a little humble there, and we'll obviously get into what you got going on. But
Yep.
even for someone like me and for our listeners, like tell me
Mhm.
how you got to where you are now with investing. So let's like start from the beginning. Like I don't want to go like too much into detail, but
Right.
like explain a little about your history just for our audience as your
Uh,
impression.
yeah. So I grew up in New York City, Brooklyn, to immigrant parents. So I mean, my parents were always been dabbling into real estate. I mean, we lived in a three-family home. We rented out the other two units, um, and then moving forward to when the what 2008 crash. Everything was on a fire sale. That's why I did my first deal, and I was addicted ever since. Um, it was a tiny little studio. I mean, I just started working. Um, it was People were trying to sell, and this building it would actually went bankrupt,
Wow. Okay.
and it was sold to another investor, um, and they got in a discount, and then they just was marketing this place really hard to find buyers. As the new construction goes for condos, they needed to get so for how financing works for large uh, residential or commercial buildings, they need to satisfy like 80% occupancy to acquire uh, long-term financing or get out of their bridge loan. So I mean, to your audience who doesn't know what a bridge loan is basically what it sounds like. It's basically short-term financing, a very high interest rate for a period of time until they get into another loan.
Mhm.
Um, so to get out of that bridge loan, they need to satisfy 80% of occupancy or at least close or in contract deals.
So let's actually stop there right there for a
Yep.
second, just for our audience. So why would someone go into a bridge loan?
Uh, so it's why would they go into a bridge loan is basically they need to, let's say they get out of a construction loan, they need to pay all their employees and stuff like that, and then they need to pay um, for so sorry, probably need to edit a lot of this.
It's okay. Well, I can
um,
help you a little bit. So typically
right.
they use it for shorter term, right? So like to
Yeah.
get into something and also to get out quickly, right?
Right. So like they need to satisfy the new loan requirements.
Right.
So for reason, so once that's satisfied, they could actually bridge into another loan, a long-term financing
Right.
for I think commercials like 25 years, and then set that and pay off their investors and so forth. So they were on a fire sale. They quickly want to get out of it. So I was able to, I was starting out, when 2008 happened. So I was able to scrape over some cash and bought this tiny little studio.
That's awesome.
And it was at the time it was like what selling at what 260 260 in downtown Brooklyn. It might seem like a lot of money for a little space,
Yeah.
but um, but the rents were still was coming
Sure.
back. New York City always was coming back at the time, so I was able to capitalize that and actually I actually and because I bought the unit and I lived in there, I was able to get a 30-year fixed rate at a very low interest rate because the market was still compressed
Right.
at the time. Um, so yeah, so I lived in there, able to get financing, and then 2 3 years later, I was able to rent it out. Um, and I was moving on to my next deal, which is with my brother and my father, and we bought a 3 family unit, and I lived in there too.
Right.
So we're able to get conventional mortgage on these properties because we're living in there, and then we rent out their 2 units. So and then fast forward, I married Anna, and then we stayed in with my brother for a little bit, and then we you know found out we were pregnant. So we had to quickly find a place, and we found this opportunity where this condo in Brooklyn as well was undervalued.
Right.
And why was it undervalued? It's because it was the new constructions there was we're able to get uh, tax what's that tax exemption.
Hmm.
So basically, but then we're not sure. So we had to file it because the rules changed during that time in 2016 to 17, and we're aging into that program where we get tax exemption, property tax exemption, and then we're able to, but then the building wasn't able to get it until it was occupied and sold. So we weren't sure. So our condo board had to hire lawyers to go to the board to the city and say, hey, this building should be tax exempt because we fit this certain requirement of 35 units and less. It's a new build condo, and it fits all these requirements. But it was a gamble. We didn't know.
Hmm.
We didn't know this if this unit will get the property tax exemption, but we did, and then it was significant. It was like savings of 6 or 7 grand a year off your mortgage, and that was
Right.
significant. So
Right. Dude, that was something that you didn't even tell me. I didn't know about that. And
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So every deal I make, like I said, I'm a very small time guy. I don't really venture out, purchasing deals. And all these deals was like I live in these units and I flip it. I do something else with it. So back to that deal. So because it was a gamble, and that condo uh, was able to get exemption, you know, the value of the condo increased. So we lived in that condo for 2 years, and we're able to sell it for more than what I bought it for
Right.
in a very short period of time.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so basically when we sold it, I did the math. It's like we came in with that service and condo fees and and closing costs. We basically lived for free for 2 years
In New York.
in New York. Yeah, so we're pretty happy about that. And it's like, all right, done, and we'll just move on to our next deal.
Yeah.
And we decided to move into Philadelphia, well, the northern part of Philadelphia, as you know. So, and we bought this place.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll get into it. So, before you made your purchase, right, in Philly, how for our audiences, how did we meet?
How do we meet? So when we were looking into deals in Philadelphia, we had a couple requirements, and it made us you know try and zone in on what we really want. And then I was talking to my wife. It's like, oh, my friend is a realtor. It's like, okay. It's like we knew exactly what we wanted. And this is the first property I actually sent to you. It's like, hey John, how's it going? Man, it's husband, and this is a deal we're looking at. Can we see the place? But then I think it was a little too late, and then it went into contract. So we're pretty sad about it. And then it's like, all right, John, I guess we guess had to see more other properties. And it's like, and I gave you a very wide range
Right.
of properties, and then and then I remember talking to you, and it's like, hey, what are you really looking for?
Yeah.
I mean, you could also tell your audience what we're looking at. We're looking at um, condos. We're looking at single family homes with or without pools. We're looking at
Fixer uppers.
fixer uppers, and we entered the property, and it was like, it smelled like shit, and
Yeah.
the ceiling was falling off.
Yeah.
It's like, and then I was telling Anna, we can make this work. We can make this work.
Yeah.
It's like, but then it's like everything was so inflated. We put in like 2-3 offers, and we're just getting outbidded with these crazy like offers. It was like all cash deals, no contingencies.
Yeah.
It was the height of the market, and I looked at it and it's like, why are we moving now? Like it's like, this is the worst time to move. I remember texting you back and forth and saying, it's like, the market got to come down. Market got to come down. This is insane for single family homes, and like it's like 3 days on market, and they got full offers. Like 6 or 7 offers already. And it was very disconcerting. Then so that's the story of how we met. I mean, we went through a lot of trials during those couple of months of looking for properties, and we got really close. And I was talking to you about the market and stuff like that, and we got very got a lot of good conversations from that.
Yeah, I think what made that process a lot easier was also the markability of the home, and your openness and Anna's openness to look at it in a different way.
Right.
Your home is so unique, and if you're open to share that, obviously,
Yeah,
love to.
definitely. So we came back to this house. This house went into contract, and then the contract fell through. I think it was because of some inspection issue, small inspection issue that the owner did not want to fix.
Yeah.
It was I think it was like a small siding problem.
Right.
And then the seller wants to oh yeah, you gotta replace all the siding, and we're like, it doesn't leak, it's fine. So we moved on, and we put in this offer. And the reason why we looked at this house is because it was undervalued in the sense that everybody was just so gung-ho about single family homes.
Right.
That just, and this was overpriced for a single family home, but it's underpriced in the sense that it has the in-law suite. And it had an attached office to it. So by square footage standard, it was definitely underpriced, because I think it was probably $100,000 underpriced in my opinion. But it had income opportunity, whereas we could rent out the in-law suite, and then probably either reduce our mortgage to something it is manageable for single family home.
Now, one thing that I was really encouraged by was the vision that you and Anna saw when you walked in. I mean, the in-law suite is pretty straightforward, right? It's like another unit, but when you walked in and you saw that it was an office, right? Like if most people walked in there, just for our listeners, if most people walked in the office, it was actually used formerly for therapy. So when people go in there, you'll see doctors kind of stuff, right? Chairs and
Right.
stuff like that, desks.
Yeah.
So
So
how did you get past that? And
so like I looked into it. It's like there's a separate entrance, you know, and it was pretty sizable. It already has a bathroom in it, so it always had the plumbing for it. And then I looked at it and I was like, what are we gonna do with this place? Like there's a couple options that we could do. We could either, you know, convert it into a man cave, or um, do a Airbnb or short-term rental. I personally didn't want to do a long-term rental on that side because it was just way too small. It was 600 square foot. And then Anna and I were talking, and she found a design, like she designed the box. It's basically it's a box. It was like perfectly squared, neat in every side, and then there was an entrance to our unit. I mean, all the units were connected at the time.
right.
Where so what we did was uh, I was thinking, how could I maximize the use of this?
Mm,
Um, I have tons of family, tons of friends in New York that want to come down and want to hang out. It's like I could do a guest house, and have my friends stay over at the guest house, and also, and if I'm not using it, I could just do short-term rental. And Anna and I have been looking into the market using AirDNA, but then it was still a gamble. Like, hey, it might not rent all the time. It's the suburbs in PA. Like, who wants to come out to the suburbs?
yeah.
Um, but then there's only like probably 15, Airbnbs around the area. And what made us unique is that we have a separate entrance, and it's a two-bedroom. And all the other Airbnbs that are there are either uh, private, like a private room in somebody else's house, or just a studio that's like maybe like a garage conversion, um, which is not, it's great for just one or two people, or and then the other extreme is a whole house for like $400 a night, but that you don't need a whole house if you're staying short term.
Right.
So that's made us, so it was a rough start, and then because it was the summertime, and I told my wife, it's like, no weekends. I don't want to book any weekends because I have friends and family coming down on the weekends, and I want to use the place for myself. Like, I'm kind of selfish in that sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to utilize that. So yeah, so we saw it as a great opportunity. We didn't know how well it's going to do.
Right.
We don't know how if we get any bookings at all. So that's it's again, we took a gamble, we took a risk,
Right.
and it's already been a month in, so we're doing okay.
Yeah. And like, obviously everything comes with the risk, but knowing your background and just having meaningful conversations with you, Warren, um, I'm sure you made it a calculated risk, right?
Right. So like we did not know how, like, if we could do uh, the long-term rental on the in-law side. It's like, okay, like I saw the rentals in the market. It's like, oh, it rents for this much.
Right.
It could cover our taxes, which is great. I love the idea. It's like, as long as it covers taxes, it's fine. And then the Airbnb, it's like, we don't know how well it's going to do. You know, oh, you don't know how many bookings we're going to get because the data points are not there. There's nobody else that we know that does it in this market. So we did that, and then it's like, okay, it covers a little more than the taxes now, and it covers, our utilities. Like it covers, the operating costs of the house. So it's like, all right, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. So like, and then with inflation and everything else, and we capitalize on the uh, low interest rates at that time, was like this. And I keep looking back, it's like, this is a phenomenal deal. This is
Right.
great,
Right.
But then it's like, I'm like, but then as the market's slowing down, and it's like, I like, how bad can it be?
Right.
You know, but but then you have to really think about, our market, the Philadelphia suburban market, how much did it increase
Right.
over the past 3 years?
Right.
Is not Austin, Texas, is
Right.
not Santa Monica, like California,
Right.
where or Colorado, whereas like it went, shot straight up for, you know for reasons that are, short term, short sighted. Like, it's like, oh, people want to move back, move somewhere, remotely and work remotely and stuff like that. But as people are just, coming down from the hype, they just realize like, oh, I could be closer to work.
Mhm.
I got like, I'm working remotely now, and then working in a hybrid model is like, that commute is not fun.
No, it's definitely
No, it's not
not.
fun at all. Um, so people are just like, and also sellers that are like, oh, let me capitalize on this move.
Yeah. Mhm.
But then it was a little too late. Like, things are slowing down, interest rates are increasing, and then there's no more supply in the market. So like, a lot of people are it's caught in between that stage, and the value of the houses are dropping. I mean, and if you take a look at our current market, it's like how much, when we're doing, you know bidding wars, I feel like it was up maybe 20% at max.
Right.
So what so like, with that being said, with things being normalized back to normal, like with inflation being, at 10% or whatever, like I feel like my judgment of market values in the suburban area probably will go down at most 10 to 15%.
Mhm.
So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And then, and talking to you, it's like, this is a long-term hold, and market value of a house eventually can go up, back up again. Like if you look back at 2008, when the market, like, there was a big hype over a longer period of time, and then, this sharp fall, like houses went down 50%. I bought my condo in downtown Brooklyn during that time when people were just very short-sighted,
Right. Which is
like,
insane now if you look at it.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. So like that, I bought my condo, and it's like, now it's like double what it's really worth.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, which I should have sold during pre-pandemic. I was thinking about it. I was like, man, it was like, I doubled my money. I should just get out of it now, not look back. But then I was like, I'm a lazy investor, so I'm like,
Yeah.
it's still cash flowing. It's still
That's
fun.
all that matters. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all that matters. So it's like 2020 hindsight.
I
It's
mean,
still cash.
to make you feel better, one of my mentors, he always told me the 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 best way to just to build and gain wealth is just to hold. Like when you
Yeah.
buy something, just hold it.
Right. I mean, that's, I guess that's another conversation that we could have in the future,
Right.
is it's estate planning, like creating, um, generational wealth,
Right.
eventually. But that's but that's, I feel like it's a longer conversation. Uh,
Yeah, I like just having our conversations right here, right now, right? Like, I want to stress to our audience that your decision to one, buy this house was something that was calculated, right? It
right.
wasn't necessarily a gamble. I know you consider it as a gamble, but I want to like stress to the audience that like your definition of gamble was actually a calculated risk. It's
Right.
something that was in your favor to do, and you probably looked at it from our conversation, you looked at it like, what's the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah. What's the worst case scenario that we could do? Is that we could short-term rental the in-law side, make a couple bucks out of that. And then it's like, I also looked into re- renting out my garage for, there's an app
Renting
for
your
that.
pool, renting
Yeah,
your pool.
renting out my pool, like there's an app for that too. I mean, there's just so many ways to capitalize on what you have,
Yeah,
like, and then just make your, if you, I'm pretty sure you read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
yeah,
Your home is a liability.
right.
and then you have to think about how to make it an asset, how to generate money out of it.
Yeah.
So that's all, like I read that book. It was definitely a life changer. Definitely changes my how I think about my purchases. You know, so like if I purchase more assets, make it generate income, um, it's better it is. And like liabilities, like nicer car or like a bigger house. I'm kind of hypocrite in the sense that I bought a big house. Uh, doesn't generate you any income, But
Yeah.
yeah, so like as long as you have that mentality, it's like how can I what purchase can I make, which of an asset that doesn't turn into a liability, but it
Right.
turns into an actual asset and generate income from. So I mean, I thought that was all avenues that I was thinking maybe like if it doesn't work, then I could rent this out and rent that out and do best I can to make up for the differential from a, a normal size house
Right.
to a bigger house.
And the one thing that I've been really encouraged, and I think I had to ask you like 3 times to do this interview, is just your creativity and and your openness, right? Now the title is termed as house hacking, right? And we briefly talked about like what house hacking is, but just for our audience, how do you define a house hack?
A house, well, kind of like what I mentioned before. How do you turn uh, your your home, your personal home where you live in, to something that generates some sort of income? There's different ways of house hacking.
Mm.
Mine's a very creative way.
Yeah.
Um, there's other ways that's more legitimate, which is uh, buying a duplex.
Yeah, like a traditional way of doing it.
Traditional way of doing it,
Right.
buying a duplex, or best way to do it is buy a quadplex. Why say a quad of 4 units is because you qualify for the conventional loan.
Mm, right.
Anything above a four is considered an investment
Commercial. Right.
commercial.
Right.
So yeah, and they're a higher interest rate. So I mean, to your listeners, like how high can I go? It's of units. It's a four
Right
unit,
on. Right on.
um, and then that's the best way to do it.
Yep.
And there's other ways. So creative ways like what we're doing is that we're renting out a part of our house on Airbnb, short-term rental. Or if you're, a college student or just starting out, it's like you could purchase a home and rent out separate rooms. It's like and get roommates, and they'll pay you, and that helps subsidize your mortgage payments, and
Mm.
eventually, um, it'll pay down the mortgage, on a solar rate.
Yeah, and I really like want to stress the importance that his house hacking model can be presented from a home that's $1 million, and it can be presented in a home where it can be, 200, $300,000.
Right.
So
Yeah, definitely. It's a model that you could apply to anything,
exactly.
like into any situation.
Right.
Like, for example, I mean, I didn't realize it until I was talking to you that I've been house hacking all my life. Like my parents did it. They
Yeah.
bought a three family.
Yeah.
Like that's a house I was born into.
Yep.
They rented out the 2 units. And then like um and then the short stint that I bought that condo, I couldn't house hack, unfortunately, because of the studio. But then my brother and I we got together and we bought a 3 unit as well. House hacked that, and we're both living together. So that lowered our living expenses. So and then got married, moved in our condo. Then we're now it's like, well, best way to do it, just house hack.
Yeah, so let me ask you a question, right? And I get this question quite often, and I'll try to answer it with you as well. So for our listeners, I'm also house hacking in this very home that I'm living here as well. I have a duplex. I live in one unit and I rent the other, right?
Mhm.
Just full disclosure for our audience, like I did not even know Warren had any form of experience with house hacking, or I didn't even know if he was interested in doing something like a house hack, right? But it's easy for people like us, right, to say, hey, let's buy a duplex, triplex, quad, whatever, right? Let's live in one unit and rent out the other. Now, how do you convince your wife, your girlfriend, your significant other to be on board with you to do this?
Well, the thing is, my I think I had TikTok
Without getting shot.
without getting yelled at after this airs. Um, well, I think I told like I think I was talking to my wife for the longest time. It's like, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? It's like, I want to retire. I was like, how do you do that? It's like passive income, um, and then just lower our living expense. It's like, okay, all right. So she just brushed me off, and then it's like, and then and then she got into this TikTok phase and then like these financial gurus, I guess.
Oh,
Of
awesome.
like,
Yeah.
and then it was like, oh, we should do Airbnb, and then we should, do this and that. It's like she was looking into it, like, uh, she wanted to get in, like, because her family goes on vacation a lot, and then she wanted a house with a pool, a beach house. It's like, oh, we should do Airbnb in a beach house. It's like, yeah, but who's gonna manage it? Like, I'm not going out there. It's like, and the property managers out there, it's like 20-30%. That's insane.
Yeah.
And then we were just talking about it, and and then she was already like, her mind was already open to it. So
Mhm.
made my like this job, like this purchase, a little easier, in a sense. Um, so it's not for everyone. It's definitely not for everyone.
Right.
House hacking, but my wife was easy to convince her, so I had no qualms or no issues with that. So I mean, others might.
Yeah.
I have to say, my wife is very unique in that sense.
Yeah, and I would have to also agree with same thing with Jennifer, my wife. Like she was very open-minded in that sense where like same thing, she had a goal in mind, right? Like she wants to retire early and eventually live a certain lifestyle. And I said, hey, and I point blank told her like at the time, like we just weren't in a financial position to just like
Yeah,
yeah, with that kind of luxury. So I told her, like, in the future, if this is something you want to do, these are the kinds of sacrifices that we're going to have to be willing to make. And I mean, to be fair, I think I had a little bit more of like, persuasion in that process. But I think after she saw the final like product of the house being built, I think it
right.
made it a lot easier. I don't know if it was the same thing for
Oh,
you.
most definitely.
Yeah,
Like, we did minor constructions, but then like, I think what really reassured us
right,
is getting that first uh, monthly check,
right,
and then seeing it in the account where you see, when you purchase a house, you see this like mortgage payment, it's like huge, like,
right,
and you see some uh, relief when you see another source of income comes in. It's like, oh, okay, it's not that bad,
right.
and you keep seeing it every month. It's like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. But then like you have this like huge mortgage payment. It's like, how are you gonna satisfy it? Your 9 to 5 is not gonna it's gonna cover it, but you don't have any space for doing anything else.
Mhm.
So that's one way of reassuring, you know house hacking or any sort of investments. That's you're just looking for that relief. Yeah, the house is built, yeah, but then is not confirmed until you get that check.
Yep. Yep.
Like, it's like, okay, he's like, it's done.
Yeah, and
You
that was
know,
the same. Yeah, that's how I actually got into, for people who don't know, that's how actually I got into real estate. I took the responsibility of house hacking, right? I was a landlord, I was all of that, right? And then after I got my first check, I was like, yeah, this is actually a lot easier than I thought. I mean,
right?
on in theory, right?
In
So
theory, I
yeah,
mean, it's just a lot of work. I mean,
yeah,
it is, but it is this. Is it the same amount? I mean, there's a lot of risk involved. I mean,
right,
like,
right,
I'm not saying like, oh, it's super easy,
yeah,
but it's not for a faint of heart.
of
You
course,
need the time, the discipline, to do this. So
of course, of course. So Warren, we're gonna wrap up here. As a real estate investor yourself, right?
Mhm.
What are you looking for to promote or make your business better?
Like I said, I do this on my spare time.
Yeah,
It's not an official business.
yeah,
It's basically it's our investment vehicle for later. You know, like so it's so what I'm trying to do is probably just network and find more deals. Probably branch out to more investments. Uh, so that's what I'm trying to do: build relationships, so I could figure out deals, finance deals, and then try to build a bigger portfolio than I currently have.
yeah, that's awesome. So networking obviously is pretty big. So with networking in mind, where can our listeners find you?
Unfortunately, I don't have a huge social media platform as you do. So just quickly, just email me. Like I started a LLC, and then I try to make it official. And you
Okay,
could reach me at Hub Investment Group
okay.
at gmail.com. So people have any questions or you want to get together, if you have any deals, please forward over to me. I'm happy to look at it. I'm happy to talk to people. Yeah,
All right. Well, Warren, thank you for your time. If you guys had any questions, obviously just send them over to Warren. I will put the email in the link description below.
sounds great.
All right, Warren, take care.
You too. Take care, man.
All right.
Bye.